The zipper of the tent rasped like a confession in the dead of night, and Jerry's hand brushed mine. Accidental, or so I told myself, as he slid inside, his breath fogging the air between us. "Dad's not coming back tonight," he whispered, voice cracking like thunder over the Rockies, eyes gleaming with a hunger that mirrored my own buried shame. In that shared space, no bigger than a coffin for two, the world outside dissolved, leaving only the storm of what we'd both hidden for years. I am Anthony Hayes, 42 years old, a high school history teacher from Denver who traded Wall Street suits for flannel shirts and lesson plans after falling hard for a man named Matthew. We met at a Pride rally in Boulder 8 years ago. Him with his easy laugh and salt and pepper beard, me nursing a fresh divorce from a marriage that had been more performance than passion. Matthew was a widower, his wife taken by cancer 2 years prior, leaving him with Jerry, a lanky 16-year-old then, all limbs and attitude, who eyed me like I was the intruder stealing his father's light. But time softened edges. Jerry graduated, went off to community college for graphic design, and our family of 3 settled into a rhythm. Barbecues in the backyard, Rockies games where we'd scream until hoarse, and quiet evenings where Matthew's head would rest on my shoulder while Jerry sketched on his iPad across the room. This hiking trip was supposed to be our reset. Matthew had been distant lately, buried in his accounting job, snapping at small things like forgotten groceries or Jerry's late nights out. "We need the mountains," he'd said over breakfast one crisp October morning, maple syrup dripping from his fork. "Clear our heads. Bond like we used to." Jerry, now 22 and built like a trail runner, lean muscles from weekend climbs, blonde curls that caught the sun like gold, had grinned and packed his gear without complaint. I nodded, ignoring the knot in my gut, the one that tightened every time Jerry's knee bumped mine under the dinner table. We drove out to Rocky Mountain National Park in Matthew's old Subaru, the radio blasting Springsteen until the signal faded into static. The trail to Emerald Lake was moderate, 8 miles round trip, but the altitude hit like a freight train. By midday, sweat soaked our shirts, and Matthew, ever the planner, insisted on a lunch break by a rushing creek. Jerry stripped off his tee to rinse his face, revealing the tattoo on his ribs, a compass rose, inked during a rebellious phase I'd pretended not to notice. "For finding my way," he'd said once, when I asked. Matthew just chuckled, ruffling his hair. Kids got ink and dreams. What more could a dad want? As the sun dipped, clouds rolled in like uninvited guests. We pitched the tent on a flat shelf above the tree-line, the wind whipping spruce needles into frenzied dances. Dinner was freeze-dried chili from pouches, eaten with plastic spoons while stars pricked the indigo sky. Matthew's phone buzzed. A work emergency. Some client's audit gone south. "I'll hike back to the trailhead for signal," he said, slinging his pack. "You two hold the fort. Jerry, keep an eye on your old man here." He kissed my forehead, clapped Jerry's shoulder, and vanished down the path, his flashlight beam slicing the dusk. That left us, Jerry and me. The tent was a 2-person model, meant for couples on romantic getaways, not stepfather and stepson navigating the awkward chasm of almost family. "Storm's coming," Jerry said, zipping the fly tight as fat raindrops began to pelt the fabric. We crawled inside, our sleeping bags unrolled side by side, the space so confined that our shoulders touched when we lay down. I stared at the tent ceiling, listening to the downpour, my mind replaying the day's small touches. Jerry's hand steadying me over a root, his laugh echoing mine at a marmot scamper. Guilt coiled in my chest like barbed wire. This was Matthew's son. My husband. What the hell was wrong with me? You ever think about it? Jerry's voice shattered the silence, low and edged with something raw. I turned my head, our faces inches apart in the lantern's amber glow. His eyes, green like Matthew's, but sharper, wilder, locked on mine. Think about what? I croaked, though my pulse thundered the answer. He swallowed, Adam's apple bobbing. Us. Before I was, family. The air thickened, charged as the lightning cracking overhead. Rain hammered relentlessly, drowning out the world. But inside, a different storm brewed, one that had simmered since Jerry turned 18, when his hugs lingered too long, his gaze held secrets. I should have shut it down. Rolled away, feigned sleep. But the isolation, the adrenaline of the hike, the fracture in our home, it all conspired against reason. Every day, I admitted, the words slipping free like a dam breaking. Jerry's breath hitched, and then his hand was on my chest, palm flat over my heart, feeling its frantic beat. Anthony, he murmured, my name a prayer and a plea. Our lips met in the dark, tentative at first, then desperate, years of unspoken longing crashing like waves. His mouth tasted of salt and chili, his body yielding under my touch, all lean lines and quiet strength. We moved like thieves in the night, clothes shed in whispers, skin against skin as thunder masked our gasps. It was over too soon, or not soon enough. A tangle of limbs and regrets, the lantern flickering like a guilty conscience. We lay there after, breaths sinking in the humid confines, the rain easing to a drizzle. This changes everything, Jerry said softly, tracing circles on my arm. I pulled him closer, burying my face in his curls, inhaling the scent of pine and earth. Or nothing, I lied, knowing dawn would bring Matthew back, and with him, the wreckage. Morning broke gray and sodden, the lake below us a mirror of mist-shrouded peaks. Matthew returned at first light, mud-caked boots announcing him before his voice did. Miss me? He called, unzipping the outer flap. Jerry and I bolted upright, hearts slamming, pulling on shirts with fumbling hands. Like hell, I managed, forcing a grin as he ducked inside, oblivious to the electric charge lingering in the air. He unpacked coffee grounds, chattering about the audit, while Jerry busied himself with the stove, his cheeks flushed, not from cold, but from the secret now etched between us. The hike out was torture. Every step echoed with what we'd done, Jerry's pack brushing mine a reminder of forbidden warmth. Matthew walked ahead, pointing out elk tracks, his laughter a knife twist. At the trailhead, we loaded the car in silence, the radio static filling the void. Back in Denver, life resumed its facade. Dinners, deadlines, the king-size bed where Matthew's snores masked my insomnia. But Jerry lingered now, texts about sketches turning to late-night calls, excuses to drop by our place when Matthew worked late. One evening, 3 weeks post-hike, Matthew came home early, finding Jerry and me on the couch, a half-empty beer bottle between us, my hand too close to his thigh. Family night? He asked, tone light but eyes narrowing. Jerry bolted upright, mumbling about a deadline, and fled. Matthew sank beside me, his hand on my knee possessive. He's been around a lot. Everything okay? I nodded, throat tight, the lie bitter as bile. That night, as we made love routine, Mechanical, I pictured Jerry's face, and shame burned hotter than desire. Winter crept in, snow blanketing the front range, mirroring the frost in our home. Matthew withdrew further, sensing the rift without naming it. Jerry's visits became clandestine. A shared cigarette on the back porch, fingers brushing in the kitchen. Each encounter stoked the fire, but guilt eroded me like acid. I loved Matthew, his steadiness, the way he'd rebuilt his heart after loss. Betraying him with his own son, it was a sin biblical in scope. Yet desire is a cruel god. On New Year's Eve, with Matthew at a work party, Jerry showed up unannounced, bottle of bourbon in hand. "One drink," he said, eyes pleading. We toasted in the dim living room, fireworks blooming outside, and soon we were on the rug, bodies entwined in a frenzy that left bruises and broken resolutions. "I love you," Jerry gasped as we climaxed, the words a grenade in my chest. Love, not lust. Panic surged. "This has to stop," I said afterward, dressing with shaking hands. He nodded, tears streaking his face, but as he left, I knew we'd both return to the flame. Spring thawed the ground, but not my conscience. Matthew confronted me one April night, after finding a crumpled note in my jacket, Jerry's handwriting. "Missed the tent." "Jay, what's going on? Tony?" he demanded, voice steady but eyes shattered. I crumbled, confessing fragments, the hike, the kiss, not the rest. His face drained of color. "My son? Jesus Christ." He stormed out, tires screeching into the rain-slick streets. Jerry called the next day, voice wrecked. "He knows. We met at a dive bar on Colfax, the kind with sticky floors and neon buzz. We have to tell him everything," I said, but Jerry's jaw set. "No. It's ours." He wouldn't understand. Conflict brewed, a storm fiercer than any in the mountains. Matthew returned that week, suitcases in hand. "I need space," he said, voice hollow. "Counseling. Or divorce." The word hung like smoke, choking us all. Summer scorched Denver, turning the city into a furnace of regret and restless nights. Matthew moved into a sublet downtown, a sterile one-bedroom with views of the Brown Platte River. Our counseling sessions at a nondescript office off Spear Boulevard were a minefield. Dr. Elena, with her wire-rimmed glasses and empathetic nods, coaxing out the rot. "Betrayal fractures trust," she'd say, as Matthew's fingers drummed the armrest, his gaze fixed on the carpet. I'd nod, tears hot, while Jerry, excluded from these talks, texted me, "Please, come over. Please." I didn't. For 2 months, I white-knuckled celibacy, drowning in work, grading papers on the American Revolution while my own rebellion unraveled me. Jerry spiraled too, dropped classes, picked up shifts bartending at a queer club in Capitol Hill, where the bass thumped like a second heartbeat. Mutual friends whispered, "He's partying hard. Watch out." But I watched from afar, scrolling his Instagram stories of sweaty dance floors and anonymous hookups, each post a twist of the knife. The climax hit on the 4th of July, fireworks literal and figurative. Matthew and I had agreed to a neutral family barbecue at Washington Park, neutral ground to test the waters. Jerry arrived late, smelling of tequila and smoke, his curls wild, eyes bloodshot. "Happy Independence Day," he slurred, popping a beer. Matthew stiffened beside the grill, flipping burgers with mechanical precision. I hovered, mediator in my own wreckage, but the air crackled with unspoken accusations. As dusk fell and the sky lit up in crimson bursts, Jerry cornered me by the lake, the crowd's oohs and ahs masking our words. "I can't do this," he hissed, breath warm on my neck. "Pretending." Seeing you with him, his hand gripped my wrist, pulling me into the shadows of a willow tree. One kiss. For old times. Madness seized me, the explosions overhead, the scent of gunpowder and his skin, and I yielded, lips crashing in a desperate claim. But Matthew saw. From across the lawn, his silhouette froze, then charged. "You son of a bitch!" The punch landed square on Jerry's jaw, a crack like fireworks gone wrong. Matthew, the gentle accountant, reduced to primal fury. Jerry reeled, blood trickling from his lip, but swung back, fist glancing off Matthew's shoulder. I dove between them, shoving, yelling, "Stop, God! Stop!" Picnickers gawked, phones out, capturing our unraveling. Matthew staggered back, chest heaving, face a mask of betrayal. "You're both dead to me," he spat, then turned and walked into the night, leaving his grill smoking unattended. Jerry slumped against the tree, wiping blood with his sleeve. "He hates me now. For real." I pulled him into my arms, rocking him like the boy he'd been, but the embrace shifted, hungry, inevitable. We stumbled to my car, the distant booms fading as I drove to his apartment above a taqueria on Federal Boulevard. There, in the swelter of his loft, posters of indie bands curling at the edges. Bed unmade, we consummated the ruin. It was raw, almost violent, nails raking backs, teeth on shoulders, cries muffled in pillows. "I need you," Jerry groaned, and I believed him, even as doubt gnawed. Morning brought hangover haze and harsh light. Jerry brewed coffee in a chipped pot, shirtless, the bruise blooming purple on his jaw. "We run," he said suddenly, ice fierce. "California. San Francisco. Start over." The idea dangled like a lifeline, beaches, rainbow flags, a life without Matthew's ghost. But my roots ran deep. The house in Highland Square, tenure track at school, the man I'd vowed to honor. "It's not that simple," I murmured, but he crossed the room, straddling my lap, lips brushing mine. "It is if you love me, love." The word echoed, a siren call. We spent the day tangled in sheets, mapping fantasies, a studio in the Castro, Jerry's art shows, my remote teaching gigs. But reality intruded, a call from DR. Elena, urging a session. Then Matthew's text, "We need to talk." Alone. Guilt surged, but so did resolve. That night, Jerry and I dressed up, him in a thrifted blazer, me in chinos, and hit a drag brunch at Hamburger Mary's, laughing over mimosas, toasting our escape. Felt like freedom, the drag queen's lip sync to Cher sealing our pact. Yet betrayal's shadow lengthened. A week later, rifling through Jerry's mail for a stray bill, I found it. An envelope from a clinic, test results. HIV positive, diagnosed months ago. My world tilted. "Why didn't you tell me?" I demanded when he came home, paper trembling in my hand. His face crumpled. "I was scared. It happened before us, some guy at a party. I didn't want you to leave." Rage and pity warred in me. We could have gotten ahead of it. Meds, doctors. He sank to the floor, sobbing. "I thought if I buried it, it wouldn't be real." Like us. The revelation cracked our fragile bubble. I stormed out, driving aimlessly through Lodo's glittering streets, neon signs blurring in tears. Matthew's apartment light was on. I knocked, collapsing into his arms when he opened the door. I fucked up. I wept, spilling everything, the full affair, Jerry's diagnosis, our runaway dreams. He held me, silent at first. Then, he's my kid, Tony. Sick. We fixed this together. No recriminations. Just the man I'd fallen for, steady, forgiving in crisis. We devised a plan over takeout lo mein, chopsticks clicking like chess pieces. Confront Jerry as a united front. Get him to treatment. Rebuild, if possible. But as Matthew dozed on the couch, phone buzzing with work emails, I stared at the skyline, heart torn. Jerry's text lit my screen. Come home. Please. 2 homes. 2 loves. The American dream, fractured into queer impossibility. Jerry resisted at first, barricaded in his loft with a bottle of Jack. Matthew and I arrived unannounced, the door yielding to my spare key. Dad. Jerry blinked, disheveled, the apartment reeking of stale smoke. Matthew crossed the room in 3 strides, enveloping him in a bear hug. I'm here, kid. We're here. Sobs racked Jerry's frame, confessions tumbling, the hookup, the fear, the way our affair had been his anchor in chaos. I watched, chest aching, as father and son clung, blood thicker than the sins we'd sown. Counseling expanded to family sessions. Dr. Elena navigating the minefield with grace. Jerry started antiretrovirals. Side effects hitting like a truck. Nausea, fatigue, but Matthew cooked bone broth. I drove him to appointments. Intimacy between Jerry and me put on ice. A cold truce enforced by Matthew's wounded eyes. Nights, I'd lie beside my husband, his body familiar yet distant, while memories of the tent haunted my dreams. Fall leaves turned the park gold again. A year post-hike. We attempted normalcy. A picnic by the lake. No alcohol, just sandwiches and tentative talk. Jerry sketched Matthew's profile, capturing the lines grief and growth had etched. You're stronger than you know, he said softly. Matthew squeezed his hand. We all are, as the sun set, painting the water crimson. I felt a stirring, not lust, but something deeper, forgiveness budding, like wildflowers in cracked asphalt. But peace is fleeting in stories like ours. One crisp November evening, Jerry vanished. No texts, no calls. Panic clawed us. Matthew paced the kitchen, phone glued to his ear. I scoured socials, finding a post from a mutual. Jerry at a club, mid-rager. We drove to Capitol Hill, bass vibrating the car windows, and pushed through the throng. There he was, in a corner booth, entangled with a stranger. Dark hair, tattooed arms, lips locked, oblivious. Jerry, Matthew's bellow cut the din. He froze, eyes widening in horror. The stranger slunk away. Jerry stood, swaying. Not now. But Matthew grabbed his arm, dragging him outside into the chill. I followed, the door slamming behind us. What the hell are you doing? Matthew roared, pinning him against brick. You could infect someone. Yourself. Jerry shoved back. Wild. I'm done being fixed. You want the perfect son? Fuck off. The fight spilled onto the sidewalk. Yells drawing stares. Jerry bolting into the night. Matthew slumped against the wall, face ashen. I can't lose him. We searched for hours, alleys and all-night diners, until my phone buzzed. Jerry, at the old trailhead, the one to Emerald Lake. Come get me. Dawn was breaking as we arrived, the Subaru crunching gravel. He sat on a boulder, knees to chest, curls matted with dew. I almost jumped, he whispered as we approached. The drop. Thought it'd end the noise. Matthew knelt first, pulling him close. Never. You're stuck with us. I joined, arms encircling both, the three of us a knot against the rising sun. Mountains loomed, eternal witnesses. In that moment, betrayal's sting dulled, replaced by raw humanity, the mess of love, the fight to hold on. Winter gripped Denver again, but this time it felt like a cocoon rather than a grave. Jerry moved back into our house. Matthew's decree. No arguments, the guest room converted to a studio with better light for his sketches. Mornings, I'd wake to the scratch of charcoal on paper, coffee brewing downstairs where Matthew hummed off-key to NPR. It was fragile, this triad. Husband, stepson, lover in limbo. We tiptoed around landmines, no locked doors, no lingering glances, but undercurrents pulled, insistent as the South Platte's flow. Jerry's health stabilized. Viral load undetectable after months of meds. A victory celebrated with ice cream at Little Man, scoops melting in the sun. To second chances, Matthew toasted, plastic spoon raised. Jerry's eyes met mine over the cones. A flicker of heat quickly doused. Gratitude swelled in me. For Matthew's grace, for Jerry's fight, but so did confusion. Who was I now? The betrayer redeemed, or still the man who craved the forbidden? Spring brought renewal, or so the poets say. Matthew suggested therapy for just us two couples work, to mend what the family sessions couldn't touch. Our therapist, a burly ex-Marine named Ray with a rainbow pin on his lanyard, dove straight in. Infidelity's a symptom, not the disease, he'd grunt, as we unpacked resentments. Matthew admitted his distance pre-hike, workaholic tendencies masking grief over his wife's death. I pushed you away, Tony. Made space for this. I confessed the loneliness, the allure of Jerry's youth mirroring my own stalled dreams. Forgiveness came in layers, nights of slow, rediscovered sex, Matthew's hands mapping my body like new territory. Jerry noticed. You two seem solid, he said one evening, helping me weed the garden, dirt caking our nails. His tone was light, but envy edged it. Yeah, I replied, pulling a dandelion root. It's work, he paused, trowel hovering. And me? Just the charity case. The question hung, thorny as thistle. I reached for his hand, squeezing. Your family. Always. But as he leaned in, lips parting, I pulled back. Not anymore. Hurt flashed in his eyes, then resignation. He nodded, standing. Got it. The betrayal reversed then, Jerry withdrawing. Not me. He buried in art, canvases piling up, abstract swirls of blue and red, chaos captured. Gigs at galleries in Rhino followed, his work selling to trendy collectors who cooed over the raw emotion. Matthew beamed at openings, arm around my waist, but I'd catch Jerry across the room, nursing a seltzer, gaze distant. One night, post-show, he vanished again, not to a club, but to a cabin in the mountains, borrowed from a friend. Need headspace, his note read. Matthew fretted. I drove up unbidden, The winding road to Netherland a ribbon of memory. The cabin squatted by a frozen pond, smoke curling from the chimney. Jerry answered shirtless, flannel pants low on hips, surprise softening to welcome. Couldn't stay away? We talked by the fire, crackling logs, whiskey neat unloading the weight. I miss you, he admitted, voice thick. But I get it. Dad deserves better. Tears tracked his cheeks. I wiped them, thumb lingering. You both do. The kiss ignited slow, inevitable, bodies remembering paths well-trodden. We made love on the bearskin rug. Tender now, no frenzy exploring scars, both literal and not. This is goodbye, I whispered after, his head on my chest. He nodded against my skin. For real this time, return was hell. Matthew sensed the shift. My rumpled clothes, the pine scent clinging. Where were you? He asked, casual over dinner. Lie after lie tumbled, but his eyes pierced. With Jerry, silence stretched, taut as a bowstring. Again, not anger, but weariness. Exhaustion from rebuilding, only to watch it crumble. He stood, chair scraping. I can't, Tony. Not anymore. The door closed softly behind him, a finality louder than any slam. Divorce papers arrived by courier a week later, clinical as a doctor's note. Matthew kept the house. I took the apartment in Baker, a walk-up with creaky floors and views of nothing. Jerry sided with him, or so it seemed, staying put, resuming the father-son bond sans me. Texts from Jerry dried up, replaced by radio silence. I threw myself into summer school, lecturing on the civil rights movement to bored teens, irony not lost. Freedom tasted like ash. Climax brewed in August heat, a gallery show for Jerry downtown, his biggest yet, themed, fractured lines. Matthew invited me as courtesy, but the air hummed with tension. The space buzzed, hipsters in ironic tees, collectors with checkbooks. Jerry's pieces dominated, massive abstracts. But one small canvas stopped me cold. Our tent, stylized in grays and golds, two silhouettes entwined under rain-streaked nylon. Title, Shared Secrets. My throat closed. Matthew, beside me, went rigid. He told you? No. But the painting screamed truth. Confrontation erupted in the back alley, cigarette butts crunching underfoot. Matthew cornered Jerry by the dumpster, voice low thunder. You drag him through the mud? After everything? Jerry whirled, paint-flecked hands clenched. It's art, Dad, not a tell-all. But Matthew advanced, finger jabbing. You seduced him. My husband. While I slaved to keep us afloat. The accusation landed like a slap. Jerry reeled. You were gone, emotionally. For years, sibling to parental fury, raw, unfiltered. I intervened, pulling them apart. Enough. This isn't fixing anything. Jerry stormed off, keys jangling. Matthew followed, leaving me in the haze. I caught up blocks away, at a coffee shop patio, where they sat across, glares like daggers. Join us, Matthew said, tone icy. The talk stretched hours, coffees refilled, truths excavated. Jerry admitted the diagnosis had fueled his recklessness, a death wish masked as rebellion. Matthew confessed his own secrets. An affair, brief and guilt-ridden, post-cancer, before me. I thought I was broken, unlovable. The revelation humanized him, stripped the saint facade. We three, Flawed vessels, spilling over. Healing began there, tentative. Joint therapy resumed, boundaries redrawn. No romance, just support. Jerry thrived, art career blooming, meds routine. Matthew and I, separated but linked, co-parenting Jerry like an ex-couple with a twist. Fall foliage mocked our stasis, vibrant against gray skies. One stormy November eve, mirroring our hike's genesis, Jerry called a summit. The cabin. All of us. Matthew agreed. I drove, wipers slashing rain. The place was the same, loft bed, stone hearth, but we arrived as equals, no hierarchies. Whiskey poured, fire lit. We talked till midnight. Pains, joys, the queer tapestry of our lives. I forgive you, Matthew said to each of us, voice cracking. Jerry wept. I joined, catharsis flooding. As embers died, Matthew stood. Separate beds tonight. But tomorrow, we figure us. He meant the three, no, him and Jerry, perhaps me orbiting. Clarity came in the loft. Jerry and I alone, Matthew below. Friends, Jerry whispered, hand in mine platonic. More than that, I replied. Family, redefined. The holidays loomed like a gauntlet, Thanksgiving's forced cheer a prelude to Christmas's tinsel trap. Matthew hosted, the Highlands house strung with lights, turkey roasting to Frank Sinatra croons. Jerry and I arrived together, carpool, not conspiracy, bearing pies from a queer-owned bakery in Uptown. Smells like home, Jerry quipped, hanging his jacket, but his eyes darted to mine, seeking approval. Matthew clapped my back, brief but warm. Glad you're here. Dinner unfolded in fits. Grace said awkwardly, passes of mashed potatoes masking pauses. Talk veered safe. Jerry's upcoming exhibit in Santa Fe. My new syllabus on LGBTQ plus history. But undercurrents swirled. Matthew's foot brushed mine accidental. Jerry's laugh too bright. Post-feast. Dishes sudsing in the sink. Matthew cornered me. He's better. Thanks to you. Gratitude, not grudge. I nodded. Suds bubbling. We're all trying. Jerry's exhibit in Santa Fe was a road trip mandate. Matthew's idea. Bonding miles. The drive down I-25 was a capsule. Playlists mixing Johnny Cash and Troye Sivan. Pit stops at roadside diners where waitresses called us y'all. Tensions simmered low. Jerry sketched from the back seat. Matthew navigated with old-school maps. Motel that night. 2 doubles. Walls thin as paper. I lay awake, listening to their murmurs. Father-son banter bleeding through plaster. The gallery was adobe-walled, canvases glowing under spotlights. Critics buzzed. A collector from LA snapped up 3 pieces. Queer Americana, one review later gushed. Raw as Route 66. Jerry glowed, champagne flute in hand. But as the crowd thinned, he pulled us aside. This is for us. The mess. The love. Matthew teared up. I hugged him fierce. The 3 a knot amid adobe echoes. Back in Denver, winter deepened, snowdrifts burying sins. My apartment grew lonely, bookshelves half empty, bed cold. Dates flickered. A barista with dimples, a librarian with wit. But none stuck, ghosts lingered. Matthew thrived solo, joining a hiking group for widowers turned gay dads. Jerry dated too, a barback named Theo, tattoos and easy charm. He's good, Jerry confided over beers at Falling Rock. Normal, envy pricked, but joy won. You deserve it. Betrayal's echo resurfaced in February. Valentine's chill. Anonymous email to Matthew's work. Screenshots of Jerry's old hookups. My number circled. Watch your back, the sender sneered. Panic rippled. Who? A jealous ex? I combed histories. Jerry pale as we met at a neutral Starbucks. Someone from the club scene, he guessed. Matthew confronted it head-on, calling a house meeting. We're out. Proud. Haters gonna hate. Strength in his stance, but vulnerability in his grip on the table. The leak forced transparency. We came out wider to colleagues, cousins, the PDA crowd Matthew volunteered with. Backlash hit, whispers at my school, a cousin's Facebook unfriending. But support surged too. Potlucks from queer allies, a surprise card from DR. Elena. Jerry channeled it into art, a series on exposure, nudes veiled in shadow, selling out in Lodo. Spring bloom tentative, cherry blossoms dusting Cheeseman Park. Matthew and I met for runs, pounding pavement in sync. Miss this, he panted one dawn, plat glittering. Miss you, words hung, unspoken invitation. We paused by the riverbank, breaths clouding. Friends first, I asked. He nodded, lips brushing my temple. Platonic? Hardly. Dinners followed, Matthew cooking pasta, Jerry joining sporadic. The air softened, boundaries blurring like watercolor. Conflict crested in May, Jerry's birthday bash at our local brewpub. Theo showed, arm around Jerry, but tension crackled when Matthew arrived late, eyes on them. Beers flowed, toasts rang. But as cake cut, Theo pulled me aside. He still talks about you. In bed, venom in his whisper, jealousy raw. I stiffened. That's his past, but the seed planted doubt. Jerry overheard, later exploding in the parking lot. Theo's insecure. Ignore him, but Matthew, witnessing, fumed. You're playing with fire again. Accusations flew, Jerry defensive, Matthew paternal. I mediated, voice rising. We're not kids. This is adult shit. Messy. Real. Theo bailed that night, tires squealing, leaving Jerry wrecked. I push everyone away. He sobbed on my couch, head in lap. Matthew arrived with takeout. Truce declared. We stay. All in. Summer solstice brought a ritual. Our hike, anniversary of the storm. Emerald Lake Trail, packs light, no tent, just a day climb. Weather held, sun gilding peaks. At the water's edge, we picnicked, sandwiches, not secrets. 1 year, Matthew said, raising a thermos of spiked cider. Jerry grinned, curls windswept. To secrets revealed, laughter rippled, genuine. But revelation's price lingered. That night, homebound, Matthew pulled over at a viewpoint, stars sprawling. I want you back, he said, hand on my thigh. Heart raced. Love rekindled, or convenience? And Jerry, depressed. He sighed. As family. Not more. Clarity cut. Polyamory unspoken, but possible. We talked till moonrise. Boundaries sketched. Open hearts. Closed loops. Jerry's reaction? Mixed. If it makes you happy, he said over coffee, but eyes shadowed. Theo circled back. Amends made. Jerry leaned in, testing normalcy. I moved partial, weekends at the house, weekdays solo. Intimacy with Matthew rebuilt slow, Walks in city park. Hands clasped. Kisses under elms. Fall whispered change. Leaves carpeting paths. Jerry's Santa Fe success led to a solo show in NYC Scouts buzzing. Come, he urged. Matthew and I flew, LaGuardia Chaos to Chelsea Galleries. The opening was electric. Critics from the Times, champagne towers. One piece stole breath. A triptych. Tent, fight, embrace. Distracted. Humanity in fracture, the placard read. After party at a rooftop bar, Manhattan glittering below. Jerry pulled us close. Proud of you both. Hugs lingered. Matthew's arm around my waist, Jerry's head on my shoulder. A photo snapped, 3 men. Skyline backdrop, later framed on the mantel. Winter's cusp brought crisis. Matthew's diagnosis. Routine checkup, prostate shadow. Biopsy confirmed, early, treatable, but terror gripped. Not again, he whispered, echoing his wife's battle. Jerry and I rallied, hospital runs, meal trains from friends. Chemo loomed, but optimism flickered, modern meds, survival rates high. Through it, our bond solidified. Nights in the hospital, Jerry sketching by the bed, me reading aloud from history tomes. Matthew's humor held. If I lose the beard, blame the drip. Laughter amid beeps. Love's quiet roar. Christmas came hushed. Tree lights soft in the living room. Chemo's toll etching Matthew's face. Jerry strung garland. I baked gingerbread, misshapen men with icing smiles. Gifts unwrapped slow. For Matthew, a custom hiking journal. Jerry, art supplies from MoMA. Me, a compass necklace from them both. Find your north, Matthew murmured, clasping it. Tears pricked. We curled on the couch. There's a wonderful life flickering. Hands entwined. Treatment dragged. Infusions. Nausea. Hair tufting pillows. Jerry deferred NYC dreams. Bartending double shifts to cover bills. I took sabbatical, subbing my classes, becoming nurse navigator. Matthew's spirits waned some days, staring at frost-laced windows. What if, he'd whisper. We'd counter. Stories of survivors. Playlists of resilience anthems. Nina Simone. Frank Ocean. Spring equinox marked remissions whisper, scans clear. Docs cautious optimistic. Celebration at Blue Moon. Rooftop under stars. Beers clinking. To kicking cancer's ass, Jerry toasted. Curls regrown. Matthew, beard stubble returning, pulled me into a kiss public, unapologetic. Jerry cheered. Theo at his side. The four a makeshift constellation. But humanism's core is imperfection. Jerry and Theo frayed, arguments over commitment. Theo's wanderlust clashing Jerry's roots. Breakup hit hard. Jerry retreating to the studio. Canvases slashed in rage. Why can't I hold on? He railed one night. Bourbon slurred. Matthew and I sat him down. Intervention gentle. You're enough, I said. HIV. Art. Us. It's your strength. Therapy solo for him now. Unpacking abandonment fears from his mom's death. Matthew's recovery fueled boldness. He quit accounting, launching a consultancy for queer nonprofits, budgets with heart. Life's too short for spreadsheets, he quipped. We traveled light weekend in Taos. Adobe warmth. Hikes at dawn. Intimacy deepened, bodies relearning trust. Laughter in sheets. Love you, he'd breathe, and I'd echo. Oh. Jerry rebounded summer, new bow. a sculptor named Luca, met at a workshop. Steady, kind, HIV-positive himself. Their bond mirrored understanding. He's chill, Jerry said, introducing at a barbecue. Matthew grilled veggie skewers. I mixed margaritas. Luca fit seamless, toasting to chosen families. Climax's shadow? A letter from the anonymous sender tracked via IP. A bitter ex of Jerry's from years back. Legal cease and desist quashed it, but scars itched. We gathered post-drama, fire pit crackling in the backyard. We've weathered worse, Matthew said, arm around me. Jerry nodded, Luca's hand in his. And come out stronger. Fall painted aspens gold. Our annual hike evolved Emerald Lake, but with Luca, a quartet on the trail. Laughter echoed, packs lighter, hearts heavier with history. At the shore, reflections danced. 4 faces in water, intertwined fates. To secrets, Jerry said, and the truths they birth. Winter solstice, 1 year post-remission. We hosted solstice supper, Yule log, candles, queer carols. Matthew proposed, again not to me alone, but a vow renewal, inclusive. Us 3, plus whoever, he said, ring simple gold. Jerry teared. I slipped it on, kissing knuckles. Luca watched, included in the weave. Life's denouement isn't tidy, no Hollywood fade. Jerry's art tours coasts, Luca trailing. Matthew's consultancy booms, board seats beckon. I publish a memoir veiled, Trails of the Heart, on queer kinship, royalties funding family trips. Betrayals, scars, not shackles. We hike yearly, tents shared platonically now, stories swapped under stars. In the end, humanism wins. Love's not possession, but presence. The tense zipper rasps still in dreams, but now it's invitation, not theft, to vulnerability, to family forged in fire. Matthew sleeps beside me, breath even. Jerry texts from LA, miss the mountains. Home soon. I smile, compass warm against skin. North found, south embraced, east and west unbound. And in America's vast heartland, mountains jagged, cities pulsing, we 3, 4, 5, carve our path. Dramatic, emotional, romantic, raw. Secrets revealed, not to destroy, but to rebuild. Stronger, human.